Welcome back to Cord Cutting This Week, episode number 53, the show where I give you my opinion on some of the biggest stories in the world of cord cutting. Now, this is my opinion. If you want to learn more about these stories, in the show notes down below, I'll have a link to each story where you can read more about them, come up with your own decisions, your own thoughts. Let me know what I got wrong. What do you disagree with me on? What do you think I should have covered that I didn't? I'd love to hear from you. First though, in the show notes, I have a link to all the Black Friday deals that are still alive at the time I'm posting this. Many of these deals are still good, I think probably until Cyber Monday. We won't know until Cyber Monday actually comes. But we'll be posting over at Cord Cutters News all the best deals still available in the link down below, and any Cyber Monday deals for cord cutters that pop up. So check those out. Also, if you're not watching cordcuttersnews.com every day, there's tons of news over there. I know a little quiet week this week with Thanksgiving on Thursday. A lot of companies didn't drop a lot of news. I find historically though, that means the next week will be very busy. So check out cordcuttersnews.com over there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button here and the notification bell for all of our news, tips, tricks, how-to guides here on YouTube. But just don't forget, cordcuttersnews.com, we're posting 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 or more stories a day all about the world of cord cutting. But let's dive into it, because even though it may have been a little bit slower than normal, there was a good amount of news that slipped through the cracks, I think, on some people. Number one is shocking surprise, everybody. Come January, Comcast is raising the fees on some cable TV plans, including some plans after promotional rate. Their most expensive one is now $254.95 for their big bundle out there. That's pretty crazy, and that's before things like taxes and depending on the number of TVs. I'm not sure. I think that doesn't include unlimited number of digital adapter boxes, so there's probably device rental fees on top of that too. But what I think was most interesting is Comcast is raising the regional sports fees and the broadcast TV fees again. This means for ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC, for example, you're going to be going from $8 a month to $10 a month on top of your cable package. Your regional sports fees are going up from $6.25 to $8.25. Again, can't say I don't want that. You pay it no matter what. And just overall, there's all kinds of changes. Now, this is in the south east part of the United States is where this rate card came. Link in the show notes to our post if you want to see all the different rates out there. What I do find is while packages fees often are a little different here, there, everywhere, the fees for like device rentals and regional sports fees and that often are very consistent, especially in the idea that when one of them goes up in one part of the country, they all go up about the same amount. Now, I know somebody will say, hey, there's this one example over here that's a little different. I get that, but overall, they typically are about the same. So keep that in mind. This gotta be, I don't know, I just don't understand this. I can understand the fact that they're trying to get their money before the business collapses, but these seem to be pretty hefty jumps. $2 on each, so an extra $4 a month really adds up over time, especially when you're talking the cheapest triple play plan after promotional rate is now $155 a month before things like taxes, additional device rentals, fees, all that kind of stuff. Some triple play packages are in the $215 range after your promotional offer ends. No wonder people are canceling cable TV and going to streaming services. Now, these rates are going up January 1st. Link down below if you want to check that out. I'd love to hear from you. What was your break-even point? Would you ever dream of a triple play package of $150? Plus, you know, I'll put a link to this too. Some of these fees and device rentals and taxes can add up to $50, $60. So that may be $200 right there for it. Link in the show notes. I'd love to know what your break-even point was. Was it $100, $200 for us? Just on the TV was when it got to 110. He said, well, that's it. We're done. So link in the show notes down below for more. Let me know what you think. But that story leads right into the next one. And this may not shock you after seeing how much cable TV costs nowadays. Cord cutting is growing faster than we first thought it was. About a week ago, I covered this, I think, on YouTube too. It was reported that about 1 million Americans canceled cable in 3 months during the third quarter. Traditional paid TV, so satellite and cable combined. Now, those numbers have been revised up now that we got some more details in. 1.2 million Americans in just 3 months canceled traditional pay TV cable services. Works out to be about 13,000 Americans each day. Some companies like Dish lost and DirecTV lost over 300,000 subscribers in just 3 months. What's even more scary is the population's increasing. The number of households in America is increasing. Has been for years, but the number of cable subscribers is setting records for how quickly it's declining. So even though there's more potential customers, there's fewer of them subscribing to pay TV. And this is really tough because when you hear that, you think cable nevers, right? People who moved out of their parents' home, never paid for cable. It's a little bit more complicated because there are the hidden cord cutters. For example, 4 best friends renting an apartment, maybe right after college, maybe in college. They get good jobs, things are going well, maybe they meet somebody, getting married, and they decide, hey, you know what, we're all going to move out, we're all going to get our own place, we live together for a couple of years, we rented a home, $150 for cable, it's split 4 ways, not a bad deal, right? That's doable. Now though, they're saying, hey, I'm by myself, or maybe there's one other roommate, $150 a month is not what I want to pay, plus fees and taxes and all the other stuff. So they cut the cord. We take that one household with 4 people, you could have 4 potential new cord cutters. Divorce is another example. Traditionally, people get divorced. One of the first things they get is a cable subscription when they move into a new place. Well, but now money's tight. Hey, they split. Maybe they get 2 different apartments. Maybe one keeps the house, one gets another. That one cable subscriber now represents 2 cord cutting households. Or that one house of roommates now represents 4 cord cutting households. And this is what's really scary. I think this is what's really not getting the attention it deserves. Is we may know that there's 25 to 30 million, let's say, cord cutting households. But it may be even higher because we just don't have good hard numbers on factors like the 4 roommates living together as one pay TV bill becoming 4. So it's interesting. How quickly is this going to accelerate? We don't know. It seems like the ball is rolling downhill in the world of cord cutting. Seeing Comcast raising their fees again in January, is that going to speed up that roll a little bit more? Spectrum recently did it. Don't be surprised if more do it. It seems like when one does it, one of the big cable companies or pay TV services do it, more raise the price. And that's not solely on them. One thing to be fair to Comcast and Spectrum is things like their fees are based on what the networks own it. Now Comcast is NBC, but they still have to pay CBS, Fox, all that kind of stuff. So when CBS raises their rates, when Fox raises their rates, when Disney raises their rates, that eventually gets passed along to you. How much of these fees are Comcast just getting bigger profit margins to try to fight off cord cutting? How much of this is because Disney's charging them more? I don't know. What we do know is it's driving 1.2 million Americans in just 3 months, 13,000. Hey, with the hidden number, the cord nevers, the people who immigrate here, the people who were rooming and splitting a cable bill now are not, now represent 4 homes without cable. Is that number 14,000? Is that number 15,000? 16,000? I don't know. Maybe that's high. Maybe it's not. We just don't know because there's no real way to see. So my question to everybody here, were you ever one of those, let's call them divider homes, where, hey, in college I rented a home with 3 guys, a couple girls, and suddenly we all moved out, none of us got cable after we split the cable bill back there. Does that represent you? Leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Were you going through a divorce? Don't, feel free not to share the story, but were you in general just a part of a one home with cable representing multiple people who split and now represents 2, 3, 4, 5 homes without cable? Leave us a comment. I'd love to see if my theory on this is as correct as I think it is. Because there's no hard data on this. But looking at the numbers, looking at the math, looking at the new home starts, looking at the growth of cable and internet versus TV, I think there's a hidden number of cord cutters we're just not seeing. Jump into the next story, which flows perfectly. Maybe it's no surprise, but Roku just set all-time records for streaming hours with 6.2 billion with a B hours streamed in just 3 months. That's a 63% jump. Hey, with the number of cord cutters growing, maybe it's no surprise Roku, the #1 streaming player in the United States, is seeing record growth. With that works out to 707,000 years of streaming in just 3 months. So if you were one person, you'd have to live 707,000 years. 707,000 years to watch everything that people watch on Roku in just 3 months. And that's not it. Active accounts jumped 43% to 23.8 million. You're probably saying, Roku has only sold 23.8 million devices. No, that's accounts. For example, I own a Roku here. I own 3 different Rokus in this home, not counting this just sample Roku I have here. They're all tied to the same Roku account. So that's one account with 3 Rokus, you know, bedroom, family room, and living room. Now, it's not probably uncommon for you to have 4 Rokus laying around your home, maybe if you have a kid's room with one. So that is pretty impressive account growth, because that typically represents new people coming into the world of cord cutting, or into the world of Roku at least. And they also had a record year when it comes to revenue. So Roku is really benefiting off of, you know, going back to the first story, Comcast raising the prices, driving more people to cord cutting. Roku's benefiting to that. You know, my question to you is, are you one of those new Roku owners? Did you get a Roku for Christmas? I'd love to hear from you. Let me know. But I think that jumps into the next story. Apple has been steady kind of in their market share recently. If you look at our cord cutting surveys, you see during the time of the DirecTV Now discounts to get, you know, prepay for so many months, get an Apple TV. Apple's had growth, but that has slowed down dramatically recently. They've been flat recently in their growth metrics. So has Roku. Fire TV's grown a little bit, but Roku's been hovering around 70, Apple TV in the 20s, Fire TV now in the 40s%. Of course, most people own multiple devices in their home. Keep that in mind, because the math otherwise doesn't work. But Apple is now reportedly, according to the information, a website with a good history on this kind of post, says Apple's looking at creating a sub $100 streaming dongle / stick kind of format, maybe more like a Chromecast dongle, or maybe more like a stick, like a Fire or Roku stick, to compete with Amazon and Roku. Amazon and Roku are number 1, number 2 in the world of streaming in the United States and probably around the world right now, though each one's not in the same countries and markets. So when you look at that, Apple says we need this market share. We don't want to fall behind. When cord cutting is a lot about price, getting a $150 Apple TV or $170 some Apple TV when it's comparable to a $50, $60 Roku Fire TV around 100, or Roku Ultra around $100 maybe, that's a steep price. Now, if Apple comes out with a $100 sub device, let's say $80 to $100 range, comparing that to only be 20, 30, maybe $40 more than an Apple or Fire TV or Roku in the similar specifications, I think then Apple would be in a much better position to compete. A lot of cord cutters are very price sensitive. Yes, there are people who will say, hey, I'm an Apple user, I'll buy anything Apple. There's a lot of people who will spend that money. But Apple doesn't have the domination in streaming they do in phones, for example. They can't come here and dictate the market in streaming. Who's dictating the market in streaming right now is Roku and Amazon, to be honest with you. Google is making good headway there, still lagging though behind with their Android TV markets. So keep an eye on this. If they do this, I think this will be the move I think Apple needs to become more competitive. There's a few questions there. Apple has a history of not putting the latest technology in some of their devices. For example, when the iPhone came out, 3G was already well established. They came out with 2G. When the Apple TV 4 came out a few years ago, 4K was pretty standard on Rokus and Fire TVs and other devices. Apple came out with a HD-only device. It wasn't until the Apple TV 4K came out that we got a 4K Apple TV. That was over a year later. So keep an eye on this. When do I expect this? Not this year. They're considering, so they could theoretically, I think, rush this. Not very Apple-esque, but they could for a spring launch, early summer maybe. Apple's been doing about every 2-year refreshes with the Apple TV. So a next fall launch would be much more in line with what Apple typically does. Late August, September, October timeframe maybe. Guessing only. But if they were to do it, that's when I'll kind of peg it, because that's when we would traditionally see a new Apple TV refresh if they do it. Now, the Apple TV 3 to the Apple TV 4 was a unusually long time and left a lot of people wondering if Apple was going to abandon the set-top box market. There was a lot of talk for a while that Apple may just do that because they were being just massacred in sales by Roku and newcomers like the Fire TV and Android TV because they didn't have an app store. They were missing many of the apps. Well, Apple's fixed that. They brought an app store for the Apple TV. They brought in a ton of apps that cord cutters and cable subscribers alike want. So now the argument that Roku and Fire TV have apps that Apple doesn't is still there, but nothing like it used to be. For most people, the apps they want, the services they want are on all three, Apple, Roku, and the Fire TV. So now you're really coming to price. And Apple just can't compete on price right now. They're double or triple what a comparable Roku or Fire TV is for the most part. Especially with the new Fire TV Stick 4K coming out. That thing's very impressive. Good specs, good performance, good 4K picture quality. So keep an eye on this. There is still some questions about this. What will it be? Like I say, will they go HD only? Will they go 4K? Apple has a history there. I would be shocked if they didn't bring 4K. There's still, though, people who hate the remote on the Apple TV with the touchpad. Love it or hate it. You're on one side or the other. So it'll be interesting to see if they come out with a like an Apple 4 or 3 remote, with a directional pad on it. But what I want to know for you, sub $100, would you switch from Roku to the Apple? Would you switch from the Fire TV to the Apple? And say it's basically the same device. Maybe it doesn't have the hard drive on it, which for cord cutters, if you're not gaming, that doesn't mean anything because you can't really use it for much. But it's basically an Apple TV in a stick format, $80-100 range. Let's just say $100 to cover the Apple tax. Let me know. What do you think? Would you switch? Would you buy? Or are you just, hey, I got the Roku, I got the Fire TV, I'm happy, it's got everything I want. Leave me a comment, I'll love to know. All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Like I said earlier, kind of a slower week a little bit because of Thanksgiving and the holidays, Black Friday and everything. A lot of people like to clear the deck, not release news because they don't think people are paying attention. Typically means next week could be very busy. So not only will I be covering Cyber Monday with all the best deals for cord cutters, I will also be posting over at Cord Cutters News, all the big news happening in the world of cord cutting. So make sure you subscribe here. Also follow us over at cordcuttersnews.com. Otherwise, and on Facebook and Twitter, search for Cord Cutters News, or you'll be missing out some of the greatest cord cutting news out there. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern for a cord cutting Q&A for about an hour live on YouTube, and every Saturday right here for our Cord Cutting Weekly recap show with additional news, tips, tricks, reviews, and more right here on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button. Would really appreciate it. Love to hear from you. We'll see you next week.